Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday, especially after the time of year that it is, and with everybody going in every different direction for all sorts of reasons. We're just so excited to have you here. Today, we're going to be diving into kind of back to the basics side of things where we're still happy to go into the weeds and things like that, but we're just going to cover basics of what the heck are these default Keeper reports? Because once we know and love them, oh my gosh, they make a world of difference. But if we don't know, then they just are clutter on the page, unfortunately. And this is where Keeper really gets, there's a lot of fun things, but this is where it really gets the most value, where people are sucked in and, kind of on the front end of Keeper. And this is the thing that we really love about Keeper that draws us in. So we're going to talk through just kind of the basics about what these different kind of default tasks are. In case you are new to us and have not met either Jody or I, we are from Hughes and Strong Consulting. We are big workflow and Keeper nerds, to be really honest. We love kind of figuring out those workarounds and how do we make this tool applicable to anybody wherever they're at and whatever their tech stack is. So our goal here is to just meet you where you're at, give you a little bit more info and a little bit more inspo, right? And then we'll kind of go and follow any fun tips and tricks or questions that you have about different features. Now, one thing that's really important to us is that there's no shame or shade in these kind of calls. Sometimes we can walk away with our own internal pressure of, oh my gosh, I'm not even using half of this tool. That's okay. This is definitely one of those that we want to give you the grace and the space to just take a little piece wherever you're at today and not should on yourself, but allow yourself to see any inspiration or take any notes or anything like that, even if you're not able to implement it right now. So really important, just be careful. Don't put extra pressure on yourself because we're not putting pressure on you from this side.
Thank you, Erica, for that great intro. So as she mentioned, today we're going to be taking a look at those default tasks that just come built in, inherent with Keeper. We're going to review the account reconciliation, transaction review, pay entity review, and the final review sections. Now, there is a lot that can be said about these. We're going to do our best not to get too excited and go overboard and get too in the weeds. But with that said, I want you guys to ask all the questions that you have about these. We're going to do our best to do an overview of them, answer some of those really common questions that we hear. But then I do want you to drop your questions into the chat, into the Zoom chat there at any point during the call. As soon as it pops in your head, pop it in the chat. And at the very end, we're going to go through all of the ones that came through as we were reviewing these sections, and then open the floor to any additional ones that may arise as we're going through. So with
Exactly.
that, go ahead, Erica.
And one kind of mention, Jody kind of touched on this. We actually did a whole amount of slides this morning, and we were like, oh gosh, this is going to be like a 90-minute presentation where nobody's going to be able to ask questions. So definitely Keeper nerds. But that being said, we're going to do an overview. We'll pop into the demo to show you what this looks like in the live account. But please let us know where your questions or intuition or brain is taking you. We will happily dive into more details or get into the weeds, but we're going to follow you guys a little bit on where we go so that we don't drown anybody in the process. And then definitely let us know if anybody wants a deeper dive, because we do have plenty we can talk about apparently. So with that being said, let's kind of start on a big overview, and Jody, let's jump into it.
Yes. All right. So first up is our account reconciliation area. So this is pulling directly from all the sections we're talking about today, pull directly from your accounting software. So these are going to be your connected clients, pulling data from the accounting software into Keeper for you to be able to review it, edit, all of the things. So the account reconciliation section is going to have all of those accounts that you want to review there. It's pulling the account register from your accounting software into Keeper. There is a space here for you to be able to add descriptions underneath the account name. And then when you open that, you have space to create checklists. So if you want to be specific with what they're doing with this report inside of Keeper, add that checklist in there. This column here is one that you can turn on in your practice settings, time-stamped balance, and that just adds additional visibility there for you. And this is also a great place to keep track of intercompany transfer balances. And when we go into the demo, I'll highlight that a little bit more. Same thing with the timestamp balance. But the first thing that I want to talk about is some of the most popular questions we get on where do these numbers and these dates come from, because they don't match what I'm putting into my accounting software. So we're going to cover this last transaction, last reconciled transaction date, and the balance at end of month. So this is the QBO screen. You enter in the statement ending balance, you enter in your statement ending date, but you can see neither one of those match what's showing up in Keeper. Why is that? Unfortunately, Keeper cannot see these dates that we enter in or the balance, the statement ending information. It's not something in the API that they're able to pull over from the accounting software. That is a limitation the accounting software has put on what's available to them. So instead, they're pulling what they can from the reconciliation report. Here on this report, you'll see there's our statement ending balance, and there's our statement ending date. The end of month balance is pulling from this line down here. So it's kind of tucked in there, but it's saying that this is the register balance as of the very last day of that month. So if you have popular with credit cards, they have dates, statement ending balance or ending dates in the middle of the month. Keepers can only see what's at the end of that month written here in this. So if you're ever curious as to why that does not match, check your reconciliation report for this line here, and these numbers should match. So that's where
Jody,
that
I'm
one
going
is
to
coming from. Yeah.
pause you really quick. Can everybody see the slide deck? Can I get a thumbs up for anybody? Okay, cool. Ellen, if you are not able to see that screen share, you might look and see if it got hidden behind another window. I just want to make sure everybody can actually see because this is really
Thank
important
you.
for you to know exactly where. So just want to make
Yeah.
sure everybody could see. Ellen, double check and make sure it didn't get hidden behind something else.
Okay, so moving on to the last reconciled transaction. So my statement ending date is the end of the month for this example, but in here it's only showing March 30th. Now, on that reconciliation report, if you scroll down, you're going to see all of those transactions that were cleared, that were reconciled within this period. You can see here that the last reconciled transaction listed has a date of the 30th. This matches the last reconciled transaction date. Now below that, you're going to see there's additional information if you have that turned on for your reconciliation report. Below that, these these are transactions that did not clear or did not reconcile with this reconciliation. So that's going to be a difference between what you're seeing with ending balances and with the last reconciled transaction. So it could be that additional things have happened in the month, but they just didn't get reconciled during this period. So again, if you're curious as to why this date is different from this one, take a look at your report and see what was the actual date on the last reconciled transaction within my report. Uh, so hopefully that helps to clear up confusion and not add to the confusion when it comes to these two columns. They are built in to Keeper here. They are not ones that you can turn off. So that's why I really wanted to make sure that it's clear where they're coming from so you can understand that, and it doesn't continue to be a bit confusing there. Okay. So common uses for this section is to review the register, see what's reconciled, what's unreconciled, what is uncleared. I'm going to jump in the demo in just a moment to show how I typically process through. It's also a space where you can look at this specific account, make edits to transactions, add questions to the client portal. This is also something that a reviewer could use. So it's something that the preparer can use to go back through and double check things. You can view all sorts of pieces of those transactions in there, but it could also be something that a reviewer goes up and expands and double checks to make sure that all things were reconciled or the things that weren't reconciled have been addressed. So with that, here's your reminder, drop questions into the chat, and I'm going to switch my screen over to the demo to show you this section live. All right, so here we are. We've got our checking account here. You can see that there is a note already entered in underneath this one. If you click on it to expand it, you can add notes here to the description. So that's an option. You can also add checklists if you would like to add additional details or instructions here. But the report that's pulling over, this is the actual register that's going to match what you see in your accounting software. Just like in many other areas of Keeper, you can click in to make edits to the account, all of that. This is a great place to ask questions if you have them. You can do things in bulk if you select over here. You can do multiple things, ask questions across all of them, change the payee, lots of things that you can do in bulk there. How I like to use this at the end of the month when I am done reconciling is I will come over here to this column where it says clear and filter to just my reconciled. This isn't the one that I did, is it? Or I already cleared them. Give me a minute. I think it was. Let me double check because I just had it prepped and ready to go.
Jody, while you're getting that set up, for anybody who brain is still a little bit boggled on that time stamped balance or that last transaction date, I did drop in a feature request to be able to turn that on and off, similar to the time stamp balance. So if you're one that either you or your team is confused by that, I did add a feature request just to give us the option to turn it on or off.
When in doubt, refresh. And it will fix itself. So now I can see my reconciled items. So what I typically do is I come in and I click reconciled. I've already done this reconciliation inside of inside of QuickBooks. And I'm coming in here to review it. And I will mass mark them as reviewed. So if I've already reconciled them, I can clear those off my list so that I'm only left with items that are uncleared or cleared but not reconciled yet. Typically, the ones that are cleared but not reconciled have dates that will clear out with the next reconciliation. So those tend not to be the highest priority because we know that they're going to be taken care of with the next reconciliation period. But the ones that are uncleared are the ones that typically we want to review. These are all in April. So if I don't want to see the current dates, I can always change this to just say past 12. That's going to show me just what's more recent. And you'll see we do have some additional ones in here. So these may be ones that I want to circle back to and say, okay, are these duplicates? Did the reconciliation not capture all of them that I need to? Why are all of these uncleared within March if I've cleared through March? Now this one's showing me that I cleared through February. So my prep work didn't come all the way through, but that's okay. One thing I do want to point out is I'm going to sort this by the date. Two things real quick without going too far in the weeds. You can filter by any of these. So if you need to review expenses, cost of goods sold, that kind of thing, you can always do that here too by filtering to do additional reviews. One thing to point out is These are from January and February, and I know that I've reconciled them in QBO, but they're still showing here as uncleared. This is a journal entry. So this is one thing to just be aware of within the account reconciliation is that if there are multiple line items, this is the line item that matches the account. So I'm in the Chase checking. This line has reconciled. 2650, that's referencing this line up here, which is not one that's going to reconcile on this account. So it's showing flagged as uncleared because of the other line items here, not because this one hasn't reconciled. So this is one that you just have to double check. Oh, yes, this is a journal entry. I know that I've reconciled this. I can mark this as reviewed. It's not something that needs to be addressed. Again, this is just a limitation with how the information pulls over the API from QBO to Keeper. So just something to be cautious of.
And we've
Okay.
seen that primarily on journal entries. So
Yes.
just have a flag that that shouldn't happen on most things, but journal entries are one of those oddballs just to keep an eye out if those show uncleared. Then we can use that kind of drill down icon to look in more detail and see if everything actually lines up the way we expect it to.
Yeah. All right. Super quick overview. There's so much more we could talk about with account reconciliations. But now we're going to pop over to a transaction review.
And for anybody that asked a question during that period, I've got all of them flagged for me internally, and we'll circle back after we do the slides. So keep them coming. Don't feel like you've gotten lost. I've got little eyeballs on them to come back to, okay?
The transaction review section, this is looking for very specific transactions and pulling them in to a report for you to be able to review. So very easy to understand transactions without payees. That's all it's looking for. Uncategorized transactions, that's all it's looking for. So all of these have very specific parameters for what it's looking for in the accounting software to pull over for your review. These are the most common reports. There are additional ones available, things for like class, location, customers, and additional ones for tax and that kind of thing. But these are the most commonly used. Anything that you see in here today that has this QB next to it, that means that that is QuickBooks only. It is not currently available for Xero users. All of these reports that get pulled in look very similar. You're going to have all of your transaction details in there. And same thing, just like with our register, you can click in to make edits and updates as needed, ask the client questions, clear them out if they're not something that needs to be reviewed. This is another great space for a self QC. So you've done all the work that you need to do in the accounting software coming through. This is a great way to catch coding errors. It's also a great way to be able to ask your client for more information, more details, and using the drill down button, as Erica called it earlier, you're able to compare to other transactions. Again, it just helps to keep things more consistent across the board.
And depending on how your firm organizes, these may be things that you set for like your junior bookkeeper or to do a first review. You may set them for the reviewer or that manager to take a higher look at after somebody's reconciled. There's no wrong or right way to do this. And a lot of us kind of mix where that preparer will do first pass through, ask any questions they know they're going to need more info on, and the manager will come back to make sure everything's been cleared out. So those are just really good things to know that this can be organized however you would like it to be. But these allow us to kind of equip junior bookkeepers to actually learn more, catch more of their errors, those sorts of things. So I love this as a tool for training where we start to kind of dip some of our juniors' toes into so that they can learn patterns and see some of their own mistakes and take a little bit more accountability.
So for all of these reports, again, connected clients only. If it's not connected, there's no data to pull in. So there'll be an error in this whole section if it's not connected. Um, There is space for a checklist if you want to add more details for how to manage this report. The reports all have different little ways that you can change the parameters or edit them. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but I can show it to you later if you have questions about it. Uncategorized transactions, this one has where you get to pick and choose what accounts are shown here. It comes default for our QBO users. It comes default with anything that's uncategorized, so the asset, expense, income. If you're using something like Ask My Client or Ask Accountant, those things, you can find them and you can add those in as well. And then most of these reports will have this excluded list over here that can be used to adjust the parameters of what's being pulled in. But for this one, uncategorized transactions, it's looking at these three accounts specifically. If it's in that account, it's going to show it here. So this gives you the ability to review it. If you know where it should be categorized to, you can go ahead and make that change and update it. It's going to push it right back to your accounting software. If you're not sure, and this is going to be a question for your client, you can use that Ask Client column to get more information and then update once you have that feedback from them. All of these are very, very similar. So again, this one is transactions without payees. So it's looking specifically at this part of the transaction. If it's blank, it's bringing it into this report. All of these do have spaces where you can adjust the time frame that you're looking at. So if it's default for just the past month, but you want to make sure that you've caught everything year to date, or maybe you're doing a full cleanup, you want to see everything over the last year, or you want to see anything that's current, absolutely everything, you've got that ability to adjust it there. All of these are also searchable. So you do have a text search here if you want to look for something specific. It's also things that you can filter if you need to drill down to limit what you're seeing. And again, you can do that bulk action. If you select on the side here, it'll bring up that bulk action menu at the bottom to allow you to do multiple changes, ask questions across multiple. It really speeds up the process instead of having to go line by line or one by one in the accounting software.
Yep. And one thing that I want to mention that's kind of a through line for any of these reports that we're talking about, it's really easy for these to stack up and get to that like 99 plus open items. What common workflows look like for a lot of us is to clear these out or mark them as reviewed, that little thumbs up status as we're going through them, no matter who on the team is reviewing them, so that we're essentially telling Keeper, hey, I've looked at these. This doesn't mean they're going to like be removed. They'll just be in that reviewed side of things rather than the open side of things. So this is just a really easy way. It does take a little bit or an extra step here, but one of the really cool things is that bulk, right? Where we can select the top of that column, say, yep, I've looked at everything on this page, I'm good, and move that over. So I see a lot of people that get stacked with like, there's so many of these. What the heck? So this is our way of kind of keeping everything sorted so that Keeper's only showing you new items because you've reviewed everything previous. So
Right.
just want to kind of mention that that's through line through the account rec, through the transaction review, but that's something we didn't touch on the slide. So I want to make sure to include that really quickly.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Um, and as you saw, if you want to mark it reviewed, but it has a question, it is going to show you what happens. So marking it as reviewed doesn't remove the question. It just removes it from this list. It hides it from your view. The question is still there. That transaction and that question are still in the client portal. If you want to remove it from the client portal, you have to check off that little resolve button there on the question. So marking it as reviewed here does not remove the question or mark it resolved inherently. So, real quick, the expense inconsistency is another one that's just slightly different because this is comparing to historical information. So for this report, you are definitely going to want to use this drop down button here to see all of the extra details. You're going to see similar historical transactions, and it will flag them. Let me find one that's got them highlighted. So it'll flag what is different. So on this one, it's marked as contract labor, but in the past, it's been marked as contract labor or professional services. So it's going to highlight what's different. This is either a way to check and say like, oh, nope, yes, that's right. He was paid two different ways, or for two different reasons it was classified that way. Perfectly fine. It's good. I don't need to do anything with it. Or maybe these are the ones that have to be updated. So you can update from your historical transactions uh, table here as well. And you can also update the line itself at the top. There are additional reports that you can do. So we've got this one pared down to just what this client needs. It doesn't have all of them in here. If we want to add additional ones, we can come in and add the Keeper default. So in here, we've got the transactions over a certain dollar amount without attachments, parent accounts, customers, because we have customers turned on for this client, is also available here. If you are somebody who's using classes or locations, you will see additional reports available as well to choose from. And if you're a Canadian QuickBooks user, you'll have tax inconsistency in there as well. Again, not going to go into the full weeds here, but you can also create custom reports. So add new report here. You get to pick and choose the parameters in which information is filtered and brought in. So there's a whole playground here of things that you can do. And if you're ever curious about like, I really want to see this, but I don't know how to get it in there, reach out to us. I love playing in this area and getting it to be set up just right to pull in that information that you need to see and review. So again, that's a huge playground. That's a lot of fun, at least for me.
Yep, and a lot of things that Jody's going to mention on that pay entity review are going to be parallel to
Yeah.
this transaction review.
Okay, so our payee entity review section, this is reviewing newly added accounts. For our customers, we're checking duplicate and newly added customers. And then for our vendors, we're looking at duplicate, newly added, and this is our space for preparing for 1099s. Great for cleanups and catch-ups. Some people will review these every single month. Some people review them on a quarterly basis. It is a way to kind of get ahead of the game, stay on top of vendors for preparing for 1099s at the end of the year. It's a way to be proactive with that instead of reactive like we typically are at the end of the year. So looking at the demo account real quick, and here, this is where this is what it'll look like. Sliding scale. It'll bring it up for you to be able to review. Click open. It's going to show you the transactions that each of these have. So you can see which ones have been brought in there.
This is one that
Newly
we can
added accounts.
adjust
Oh, go
that.
ahead.
I was just going to
Yes.
mention the duplicate vendors and customers is also one that we can change the sensitivity. So you can see that the first line item here, Apex Foods versus Apex Foods with a period. If that's like if this becomes an issue where it's flagging things that aren't actually duplicates or it's not flagging things that are duplicates, that sensitivity bar is what we'll want to play with to adjust what's coming through and how often those suggestions are coming up. So sometimes I see this as a potential problem where people don't like this review because of how like nitpicky it gets with this. Some of us love that, some of us don't. Your sensitivity bar can be different across different clients or across your firm. So definitely one to play with if the default report isn't whole.
Newly added. Going to show you all the information there. It will show you the number of transactions for each of those as well. And then you can drill down to see what those transactions are. So it's going to be the same for your vendors and your customers. You're going to be able to drill down for that. Very similarly for your newly added accounts, it's going to show you the account that was added, how many transactions, and you can drill down to see what those are. Prepare 1099s. This is when it actually meets the 1099 threshold. So this is going to show you the year-to-date spend. It's going to flag these as, hey, do you need to send them a 1099 at the end of the year? If so, this is a great way to be proactive about collecting those W-9s as soon as they hit the threshold. Next up, the final review, financial statements. Again, these bottom three here, statement of cash flows, APAR, aging summaries, those are QBO users only. So those aren't available for those zero books. But the profit and loss and the balance sheet are in here. This is a really great way to drill down all the way to the transaction level and back out very quickly and with ease, as opposed to it can be fairly clunky to do that in QBO to get all the way down to where you need to and back out. You can also create variations of the profit and loss and balance sheet if you want to see them in different ways without having to change the parameters every time you're in there. You can add multiples in this section to be able to review the information that you need.
And I
With
think
that,
being able to drill down to that level and go back is one of the biggest reasons that I see people actually using this here in
yes.
Keeper versus QBO. QBO, I don't want to speak for everybody because not like these may be easier in zero, but in QBO, there's about 50 different pages you got to get to, and then you got to back up the whole way versus that drill down option. And again, anything you see here that's a flag and like that top line that has no payee, we can adjust that from here. I can also comment to a team member if there's something I need to flag, or I can ask my client from here. So again, very similar report. There's an argument to be made about, do we do this in QBO or do we do this in Keeper? That's a little kind of mini deep dive about why a lot of us like it here in Keeper, is that I can add those different variations if I want to see P&L for the whole fiscal year or P&L by month. And then I can also adjust or look here, drill down easier, come back easier, and have that additional functionality for flagging it for my team or for my client. Beautiful. So we whizzed through that. I really
We
appreciate everybody hanging on for
did.
dear life here. You guys had some great questions that are coming in. So I'm going to start popping these to you, Jody. Are you cool with that?
Yep. Do you want me just to stay in the demo account?
Yep, you just stay there and
All
I'll
right,
feed you the
let's roll
questions.
with it.
Awesome. So Lori had a wonderful question about why do you have a gold star next to the cash on hand account? So you're going to see this on any task in
Mm.
Keeper has this option, but I want to kind of flag that because it's a really good question.
Yep, so this is a way to indicate something as high priority. It is going to be available on any and every task, including all of these reports. So if you flag this as a high priority, it's just a quick way for your eye, it happened for you, your eye gets drawn to that right away. You're like, oh, okay, I want to do that one first. This also drives filters, quick filters in your task list. You can do a quick filter for high priority tasks. If you are one who gets the daily digest emails every day, that anything flagged as a high priority is going to be at the top of that email list. So that's pretty much it. It's just a flag for a high priority item.
And when it comes to like what's the best like use case? Like when would we actually use this or mark something as high priority? I see a lot of people helping kind of prioritize for themselves or for their team. These are must-have items. These are your to continue to use the same word so it sounds like it's not a word anymore. The high priority is actually helping you prioritize those tasks, right? Which sounds a little bit intuitive, but these are the hell or high water, these have to be done, or these are the most important that we need to click our brain on because these are the ones that are usually going to have some weird stuff going on. So especially when it comes into like the default transaction review or the default pay entity review, sometimes rather than trim down or delete the reports, I will see people star the ones that they're like, hey, these have to be done every month. The other ones are, hey, double check them as you have time. We need to keep an eye on these, but they're not, if you are crunched on time, these are not the ones that I want you to like stay over for, that sort of thing. So just wanted to share kind of a like, how does this work on a daily level as well? Anything else you want to add on that, Jody? Next up, Renata has a lovely question about if they're using classes on one client, how does that show up in Keeper and how can we turn that on?
Okay, so in order to turn that on in Keeper, you'll come up here to these that little ellipses at the top and go to your, oh, I gotta move this, go to client settings. And in here, you can turn class on. And as soon as you do that, it's going to add those two class options or those reports down here for you. So it automatically added in without class inconsistency. So if you are using those, it's going to show those reports and allow you to view that information. It adds in this column for class to be able to edit those as well.
And then I might have missed it, but did you show in settings how we can turn that on?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's right
Awesome.
here. Now, if you are adding in a new client and class is enabled in your accounting software, it should automatically select this for those new clients. Anything that's been in there, that was a more recent feature update. So if it's something that you've had in Keeper for a while, you might have to come in here to the account settings to turn that on.
Awesome. Thanks for showing us all of that.
Mhm.
Next up, Jennifer actually had a really great tip that I wanted to share with everybody. So in the account reconciliation area, Jody mentioned that you can add a description. One of the things that becomes really tricky or that can be really helpful to use that description for is mentioning like waiting for payments to clear should clear by 4/16. Or if a statement ends mid-month, kind of mentioning that in the description. Again, because some of those won't clear or some of them won't show up. So that description can be really helpful there just to give some more context about a nuance with this specific account or anything that's uncleared or still showing up in that report. Thanks for that demo there. All righty. Next up, we're going to go to the reports section, Jody. And I'm not sure that this one is possible, so let's see if there's a workaround that you have in the back of your head. So if we want to publish January 2025 financial reports, can we change that cover page so that it reads something different and we can kind of adjust the period that shows on that front page of the report? So maybe let's give people a visual so we know what we're talking
Yeah.
about. But
Okay,
I
so we're
think
talking about our
this,
reporting section for our
yeah,
management report. So this is different from the financial or from the final review section. That final review section is your internal review. If you click up here to the reporting section, the tab, this is the management report that is going to go out to your client. So you're talking about this cover page here and the March 25 date there. So there are limitations, but I will show you how this can change a little bit. And it's going to be driven by your executive summary. So the cover page itself, you can play with a little bit of the format, which logo is showing, that kind of thing. And the disclaimer, anything that's at the bottom there, that's going to be a practice setting for that. So there's very little that you can do on this page from here. But in the executive summary, if you're looking at the comparison settings, I have it set for monthly. If I change it, so this is a little bit easier to see at year end, I think, but we'll test this out together. So if I change this to quarterly, here it's showing you Q1 25. It's going to show you that information. The cover page is still going to show you March. I want to say it was with December, like the year end is where I found it to be the most helpful, but let me see if it changes it again. We might be fine. Yeah. So if you change it to yearly, it's just going to take away the month and change it to 2025. That's the only thing that I have seen to change on here based on the comparison settings here. So it's kind of a long way of saying no.
Renata, this might be a really good one to look in Canny and see if there's a feature request because I know that being able to edit that cover page or the table of contents is
Yes.
one that I have in my brain that somebody may have
Yes.
suggested before or that other people have gotten frustrated by. So I would double check there. Reach out to us if you don't see that and we can add one or you're welcome to add it. But if you do add it, let us know and we'll kind of blast it out so that everybody can upvote.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. I mean, so basically just go to executive summaries and go to comparison settings and then make sure that the drop down for aggregation is set
Yeah.
on monthly if I want to do January close
Yeah.
and then have it show as January. Okay.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. All righty, Jody, next up. So
Mm-hmm.
Shelby asks, how can we best navigate lingering close tasks? So this is a really good question because if something's mentioned as a waiting on client or something like that, it's still stuck within that closing period. So we can't change the due date and say, hey, that's actually due now
Yeah.
to check back in there. I have a feeling that going through and utilizing the task list to filter down by the sections you're most curious by and that waiting on client status is the best way. But I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to let you kind of drive and see if there were any other suggestions that you had.
Yep. That's exactly what I would do. I would have that as a best practice as a firm to come into your task list to be able to see, because this is going to pull from every close. So you can filter this down to be able to see old closes. You can filter by the status to show waiting on client. That might be a really great saved view is waiting on client. Um, Filter just by that. Click save view. And I'm just going to name this waiting on client.
And this will inherently,
Picking
unless we
that
filter
firm
it
wide.
down more, exactly. So unless we filter this down more, this will show across all clients, all closes, anything with that waiting on client status. So if we need to
Right.
filter it down and say, hey, just for the closing sections, or maybe just for a specific area, we can. But I think this is the best way to go across the different periods and have a list of outstanding items that you can then address and prioritize or follow back up on. That's the best way I can think of because the alternative is going through each and every close period for each and
Right.
every person and looking at each of those statuses. So I would utilize that task list. You can save that view if it's something you're going to come back to over and over and make part of your quarterly process or something like that. But I think this is the one to utilize here to make that process a little bit easier.
The other thing you could do that I do think is the best solution is to best practices as a firm utilize that waiting on client status and then having a saved thing here that's going to help you catch all of them and stay on top of them. Um, an alternate option it would be to come in and filter by all of the closes except for the current one. This one would have to be updated regularly because you'd want to, deselect the current one
Adjust.
as well. But this could show you everything that is still open regardless of status. And then you can come through and update the status if you need to. You can, mark them as resolved. That you can do in bulk. So if this is just like a cleanup, I need to clear these things out. They were covered, they were done. You can bulk select them and choose the status that you want down here to be able to clear them out or cancel them or whatever you might need to do.
Or
Uh,
even update if you have gotten something that was previously waiting on client, but you know that you've gotten those cleared out. This is a really good way to utilize that list to
yeah.
do things in bulk as well.
Yep.
Beautiful.
What's our next question?
I'm going to piggyback one that is on this same view, and then we'll bounce around a little bit. So
Okay.
Ellen just asked, do tasks with no due date show up in the task list? So
Yes.
answer is yes, we need to filter by it. So Jody, I'll let you kind of give a demo there.
Yep. So from our quick filters up here, well, first of all, you can sort by the date as well. And it should show you at the top. Oh, I have, hold on, let me get out of this filter. Let me get back to default so it's showing everything. Reset. A minute to load. Yes. So all, whether it has a due date or not, whether it has an assignee or not, if it is a task in the system somewhere, it's going to show up on this list. On your default view, everything will be here. So you can always sort to see what's there, but you can also use the quick filter view up here to select, I just want to see the no due dates. That's all I want to know, which ones don't have a due date on them. You can do a quick filter for that. And then as you start adding dates to it, it'll clear them out for you.
Yep. So this is a really good way to catch some of those things. I know a lot of us are still trying to work out what even due dates we need to set for our firm and what those frequencies are. So especially if we've been using Keeper before and didn't have due dates, but now we're implementing a new structure, this can be a really good view to catch everything that doesn't have a due date so we can make sure it continues on having a due date from here. The other kind of option here is that this can anything that doesn't have a due date won't show up on your due this week list.
Right.
So this is a really good one that we want to check because if we're in the habit or if we train our team to be in the habit of using that due this week in the quick drop downs, these are not going to show up. So these are the most likely to fall through, unfortunately. So this is a really good way to catch any of those because like Jody said, whether it's a firm task, a client task, regardless of section or who's assigned or anything like that, they will all show up here if we use that no due date or filter by due date.
Yep. Now, unfortunately, we can do a lot of things in bulk. Adding your due date is not one of them for this view. So just, there are requests out there to have more bulk action items and availability down here in our menu. But for right now, the bulk actions that we can do from the task list is just set the status, set the assignee, or delete them. So due date is going to have to be an individual click in to update those.
Yep. And Rochelle actually just posted a feature request about that. So if anybody's
Yeah.
like, oh, I really want to be able to update that, go upvote that one. That's a really common one.
Yes.
All right. Jody, let's pause for 2 seconds because I know some people may have a call at the top of the hour. Any question that we still have pending, we will get to. But I respect that some people may have an immediate call right after this. So recording will go out on Friday if you aren't able to stay, but you want to catch those last couple of questions. But quick, in case anybody needs to hop off, we have plenty of free resources, including these calls. Every single month, we dive into a different topic. Usually, they're not quite this in depth. So bear with us if this was your first one and you were like, damn, that was like drinking out of a fire hose. So these are every month, and we try to feature something that is less known in Keeper or just kind of dive into something. We also have a whole YouTube channel of previous recordings. If there was a topic that we previously covered that you want to binge, we also have additional resources like PDFs, little freebies, free templates, that sort of thing on our website, hughesandstrong.com/keeper. So if you are in the freebie game, these are a great one to come to, or the additional resources. Now, that being said, if you're like, oh, you guys opened a can of worms and I realize that I'm not using half of this stuff, or I really need some help, or I would like to really level up my Keeper, we have full scale support, everything from let's brainstorm or train your team. Let's take a look at your account with a diagnostic review and give you specific suggestions about how to make this work for your firm and how to get kind of creative and customize it to you. And then we have plenty of templates, like any that you saw today that have a checklist are available for purchase if that's something that you want to skip sitting down and writing those out yourself. We also do full hands-on setup if you're like, can I just tell you what I need in there and you do the actual clicking? Answer is yes. So anywhere along that spectrum, even if it's something not exactly that we covered, but it's a simple like, hey, can you just clean up some of these historical transactions or anything in there? Reach out to us. We're happy to help. And this is all that we do is Keeper stuff. So we're happy to help on any level, whether that's a simple question all the way up to fully setting up your own Keeper for you. So quick blurb in case anybody wants additional support and is not sure where to go. Anything else you want to add before we jump back into questions, Jody? I know I went over that kind of quickly.
Yeah, you covered it. But we're here.
Perfect.
We love brainstorming and troubleshooting. So if it's not doing something that you're wanting it to do, ask us. We can help you figure out if it'll work for
If
you. We
it's
love pushing the
possible,
system. Yes.
yeah, even if you need a workaround or like, okay, this isn't technically possible, but is there some way we could still hit the same objective?
Yeah,
Reach out to us. That's the fun stuff for us.
absolutely.
Okay.
But like Erica said, we will finish going through all the rest of the questions, however long it takes. But feel free to head out if you've got other appointments that you need to get to. As Erica said, the recording will come out on Friday for you.
Absolutely. Okay, hopping back into the demo. Miss Ellen has a lovely question. So we just talked about that duplicate vendors and customers. Is there any way in Keeper to merge those if we find that they are duplicates, or is that something that we need to take note and go into QBO?
So my personal preference is to do the merge in QBO simply because when you merge in the accounting software, at least in QBO, when you merge them, it fixes all the historical information as well. So if you've been accidentally using two different uh, payees for various things over the course of several years, and you want them all to be the same, you can merge them and everything updates in QuickBooks. Here in Keeper, you have the ability to update, but it's only going to be updating whatever is being pulled in. And there's 12-month limit on what gets pulled in on any given close period. So if it's only a few things like this, there's not that many here. You could easily update it and then hit the trash can to remove it. Hitting this trash can is going to mark it as inactive, but it does not change the payee. So you saw the payee disappeared. It's not part of this anymore, but all of those transactions still have that payee on it. What was that? Active
I think it was
Apex Foods.
Apex with a period, Apex Foods, period.
So if I look for it, I'm still going to see it. It just shows deleted. I didn't actually change anything on that. Now I can come in here and change the payee to the active one. I should be able to do that. Not letting me right now. There's a reason. Because it's already been deleted. Or no. Multiple lines. I don't know. But you can change it in here if you needed to. So if it's something that's coming up and it's saying like, hey, Keeper is not finding any transactions coded to this person, then or this payee, then maybe that's a fine one to choose. Like, okay, well, there's nothing in here to it, so I'm just going to go ahead and mark it inactive, so it's not being used, and it won't be used in the future. But if it is one that has multiples and you want to, and it has a lot. QBO is where I personally would go in to merge them because it does the auto fixes it all behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Long-winded answer.
And then you're not locked into any weird, like, hey, I can't pass that over to QBO because it doesn't exist, right? Because I can't see it from QBO. So if you're going to delete it in here, I would use that bulk action to change that vendor first and then
Yes.
delete it. If not, go into accounting software, merge from the back end so that they all end up being the same and you don't get caught in any liminal spaces with any transactions.
Right.
Great question. Alrighty. Next up, so Shelby has a question about how can we see recurring or closing task distribution by team member? So our goal is to be able to plan better for onboarding clients so that they don't overload any one person on a specific day of the week. This is such a good question.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give the workaround that we can think of right now. This may be one that is limited by what we can see in Keeper right now, or may need a little bit more troubleshooting. So Shelby will give you the quick and dirty answer. Reach out to us if we need to do a little bit more behind the scenes or something like that to give you a better, like not on the spot, but we can kind of play around to see if there's anything beyond what we give. But I think this is another good use of that task list and filtering by team member and then filtering down by the closing sections only. So just like we showed on that, like waiting on client status, we can filter down by the section. So we're only showing closing, right? Because that's our ongoing repeating. And then we can filter by the assignee. So really good example here. Beautiful. And then we could also filter down to just the last close. Because again, this is going to show across all close periods. So that may get a little bit tricky when you're like, okay, I just want to see a snapshot of this month and what the responsibilities look like. That's the best way I can think about getting there. Jody, any other suggestions on this one? Because it's a really good question.
It
I just don't know if
is, but
there's
I do
much
think
more.
I think it's kind of it's a complicated one, because I think I understand where they're wanting to go with it. Um, there is not a quick one, a quick answer or a quick button or a quick screen to get to. So that's the short answer, is that it that is not in here yet. Um, Utilizing this to see the number of tasks, you can do that. You can export these things too. So if you need to analyze it or pull it out so that you can count quickly and like that kind of thing. So that is a good 1.0 is searching here, where you can see everything across all of them. If you're utilizing the timers, there is stuff in here for employee reporting. Now, again, this is more of your time entry.
But that can
But there
help you see
is,
and judge capacity as well. If you're using this for time
yeah.
tracking and you see that one team member has lots more logged hours, I think between that task log and the
Hmm.
capacity planning or the time logs may be the closest that we can get outside of
Yeah.
just being able to export and crunch some numbers in a different software.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where you can put in a budget. You can put in, have more visibility on the time that has been tracked inside of Keeper. But again, feel free to reach out to us and we can do a brainstorming session to dig deeper into this. But that would be the quickest answer for today.
Yeah. Next up, Sandy. Oh, thank you. Love your objective and following steps for those reporting tasks that we shared. Can we share these? So these are actually templates that we sell to be able to kind of shortcut that time to setup. So if you are interested, definitely reach out to us. We can kind of do custom packages or give you everything that we have because we have a whole extensive template library. But those SOPs are something that are our own personal babies. So that's something we're happy to sell or talk about pricing options and stuff like that. Just reach out to us at hughesandstrong.com/contact. Alrighty, next up. Ellen, we got your question about no due dates. Beautiful. And Rochelle, just confirming we cannot bulk edit that due date from that screen. All right, next up, Jody. What is expenses without customers? Aren't expenses associated with vendors? And what are customers in this case?
Yeah. So customers this would be something that's turned on in your accounting software. Um, where you can opt to require a customer to be listed. So yes, my vendor's over here, but say I've got, I think it's used a lot for job costing. So if you are paying this vendor for it, but it's part of a specific project for, you know, Barty Davis for this one. So like I'm working on a project specifically for this customer. This is an expense that went into that. So I think it's primarily used for job costing.
Yep, absolutely. And I've seen it used as a way to, I think locations are more commonly used for this, but it is kind of same, but different if you're trying to track properties or something like that
Mhm.
as well. So
Yeah.
kind of great question there about like, what is this term? And like, let's make sure we all understand that. So lovely there. Ellen, do you know is working on beefing up the general task or project management capabilities? So short answer, yes. Ellen, are you able to come off of mute and give like anything in specific that you're hoping to beef up? I can give you a better answer.
Nothing in specific, but I'm always searching to use fewer apps. And right now I'm using, I just need, I mean, I'm using something called Todoist, but like folks use Asana. I have had serious shiny object syndrome with Financial Sense. And I don't need another software, but Keeper is not enough for task and project management. And it's
Yeah.
still clunky. It's still like the bulk adding due dates. So the question is, do you know? I'm assuming this is in the pipeline. Like, I think they want to build this out. That's my understanding. But I mean, I gotta have something today, and I do have something today, but like, how strongly can I stop looking at other things? Like, how does that make sense?
Yes,
It
You know what
does.
I'm trying to say
absolutely.
without saying it?
Yes, ma'am, 100%. So behind the scenes, I can tell you confidently that the update that's coming up next for Team's primary focus is that zero integration, because there's a lot of things that are lacking on that side. So that's one that is sooner rather than later. Past that, I know personally that the team is working on beefing up project management, because we and they have heard over and over again, I still have to have a separate software for my payroll only clients or for my marketing tasks that I still have to keep. And there's workarounds that even we've come across or done previous Q&As about creating an unconnected client and adjusting and hiding sections and stuff like that. But like you're saying, it's clunky, right?
Yeah, and why
It's
do
not
all
an
that work
ideal.
when I can just use Asana or use Todoist
Mhm.
and get it set up in 10 seconds and I'm on my way. So yeah.
Exactly. And because Keeper is a month-end closing as its primary core, and the
Right.
project management is a secondary, it is lacking if you're comparing it apples to apples, just that project management side compared to Asana or something like that, that's their core, that's juicy, that's what we're spending all of our dev time on. So I do know, and I was able to actually like sit down with the dev team last week and make some suggestions about common issues that we've heard, and like, hey guys, this is still clunky and it's the system that we even use for everything, and I love it but don't like it sometimes. So I know that there's plenty out there. I can't speak, and I don't even know if they will be able to speak to any exact of when that's going to come. But I do know, and I can at least give a little pat on the back to say it's on their radar. It is something that they are so understanding about and want to prevent. Their goal is that all in one.
Yeah.
So they are trying to prevent that, hey, I have to have a whole nother system just to keep track of my tasks. So I don't, that was in the same way that you were like, does that make sense? I'm wondering the same thing of like, hopefully that came out clear enough. But I do know that there are some other pieces that are up kind of primary to make sure that it's functional for zero users that are like, y'all, this is like half baked. So that is primary focus. But I do know that project management and being able to use it for more is a very loud concern that they're taking very seriously.
Awesome. Okay. Very good.
Does that help at least? I know that's not a perfect answer and I can't speak
No,
for
it
Keeper.
it just reinforced that yes, it's confirmation that it is in the pipeline. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Yeah, glad I could help on. Okay. I think we're all caught up. Holy cow. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Amazing. I know we're over time, so anybody that has to jump, please feel free. Nobody's holding you here. If anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to come off mute at this point. I don't want to get you caught in like you're typing frantically and I just didn't get to you quick enough. So if there's any other final questions, either raise your hand or just come off mute if that's possible for you. But we'll stay and answer probably just a couple more minutes because I don't want to keep anybody past that. But if there's any other last minute questions, free for all, let us know. Otherwise, we'll wrap up probably about, probably 10 or 12. So any other last minute questions from anybody that's hanging out still?
I have a question, and
Yeah, what you got?
this is regarding recurring email. For one client, I had two contacts, and I had set up the Monday morning 8 a.m. recurring email. And then the main person who usually answers my questions is saying, hey, why did the email only go to one person and not me? Which was really strange. And I also realized that this other person doesn't really answer Keeper questions anyway, so I removed him. She's now my only contact, but does that ever happen where it just, like, now I'm feeling a little scared about this recurring thing, and I feel like I'm just going to do it manually just because I know that there are lingering questions, so maybe I'll just do it instead of, but I know that when I start getting more clients, that's going to
At
be difficult.
volume,
Yeah.
yeah, I would want to, Jody, I'll let us kind of bounce back and forth because I'm sure
Yeah,
we've
I'm
both got some
curious.
insight here. But Renata, one thing I want to kind of put my coaching hat on for 2 seconds for is remember future Renata and don't put in a system that you're not going to be able to maintain. Especially if it's for one client. That's always where I'm really careful about, hey, is this something that actually needs to shift and change because this is a really good suggestion? Or is this one person's preference? So quick, like business coaching side, really quickly, be careful about what you're going to be able to maintain at scale and at volume. But Jody, I'll pass it off to you for the more like technical
Thank
part of
you.
that answer.
Yeah. Yeah. My immediate first question is, did you have assignable questions turned on? This is what will drive who is getting an email. If it is turned off, so if it's not checked off, it's not enabled, then that means that anybody on this list is getting the email, is going to get messages, it's going to get the reminders. If assignable questions is enabled, so if this is turned on, then that means that the only person getting an email is the one that has unanswered questions in the portal. So that would be my first question or place to check if I'm
Yeah.
having this issue on a client by client basis.
Okay.
Would be
So in other
checking this.
words, yeah, I didn't do it. Like I had two, contacts for this one client, which is a company. And so I had just chosen the middle one, which is email reminders enabled.
Mhm.
And so you're saying, because there is one person who's only answering. So because that person is answering, then if I don't, like, do I not choose that middle one? And do I just choose assignable questions? And then
No, so if you
or
want
both?
automated, if
Yeah.
you want automated emails to go out, you have to choose you have to choose that to turn it on. And if you turn it on, then anybody on this list should be getting that email. Now, if they said they didn't get it,
Yeah. That's
the
what they
next
said.
thing I would check is come here to message client,
Uh-huh.
go down to the bottom where you can view this email history
This is
and
going to show
look.
any of those automated
It will
messages
show
that
you
have
the
gone out.
automated and it will show you individually
Manual.
which
Oh,
one got sent. So you could double
emails.
check. Maybe it got sent to a spam,
Oh,
folder by accident.
yeah.
But you could double check. And if you come here, and so assignable questions not turned on.
Okay.
You come here and you see like, okay, it did go out, but not to that contact. Why? This might be let's reach out to Keeper support. Come down here, reach out to Keeper support and let them know.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could be there's a potential it could have been a bug that for
Mm-hmm.
some reason it didn't go to all of those clients' contacts.
Mm,
Those would be the things that I would check first to troubleshoot on
okay.
the, technical side over here. Um,
Yeah. So it's an
Yeah.
see
And
what
I
email history
happened.
at the bottom. So you can get that whole history,
And you
opening
can
up
view it
any
too.
email that you have given to them. Just go down to that and it'll be
Yes.
the same history. And I
yeah.
still can't understand what you mean by assignable. Like, when do I choose that one instead of the middle?
Yeah, so I've got a tangible example for that one. So let's say one person is the primary, they're answering most of the questions,
Mm-hmm.
but we want, let's say, the owner to be able to view financial statements or to ask some of those higher level questions to them. We don't want them bogged down in all the day to day, hey, what
Mm-hmm.
was this Amazon transaction? Because they're going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, ask somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good example of when I would turn on assignable questions because I can say, hey, for this question specifically, or this statement request, who on the team is going to be most likely to be able to get me that information. Okay, so that's when we would assign the question to one contact versus another. And that's when we would use assignable questions. Now, quick backstory. When assignable questions is turned on, only the people that have open questions are gonna get that reminder. So if I don't have any open questions for that owner, they're not gonna get a reminder every single week. But that person who will or who does have questions is going to get that reminder, because that's Keeper's prompt and nudge to be like, hey, yo, I need something from you. Okay. So that's that assignable questions. Did that help or make it more muddy?
I
I
mean,
just dropped this the
Yeah.
Keeper help page here. I just dropped it in the chat for you
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
to help you with a little
Yeah,
bit
assignable
more
questions. Okay.
resources there for you.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's only one person who's answering my questions, and so we're having these conversations because she'll answer a part, and so then I have to ask her another one, follow-up question, and so it's really just her. So if I do choose assignable questions because it's only going to her, then that means I can keep the other person on as a contact, and then that person won't be bothered. And
But
then
they can still go in and see reports if they
Yeah,
need to,
that's so
or
great.
something like that, depending on how you turn on those settings.
That's so
Now,
wonderful
so-
because because the
So,
CPA
Renata,
asked me,
here
like I
on-
asked a question, the CPA is like, are you asking me questions? Like, oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed. No.
Wait, no, I'm not trying
Yes.
to. Yep.
Yeah.
So when you
thank
have assignable questions turned on,
Mhm.
it opens up this column that is assignee.
Assignee.
So then you can choose from your contacts who it is that's
Who
going
is
to
that
get
going
that.
to?
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
if you leave it blank,
Mhm.
nobody is going to see the question. Nobody
Oh my
at
Yeah,
goodness.
so
all.
that's
Okay,
one that
that's
you
such
got
a
to
good
be really
important
careful
point.
with.
Okay.
But
Thank
you can
you.
always bulk action, and you should be able to assign. Yep, right here. Set the contact.
Okay,
Who's
good. I
going to
can
answer
bulk.
this
Yeah.
question?
That's good
Yeah.
that I can bulk. I can save
And
time.
that's going to be
that's a
your
really good.
transaction and non-transaction
Oh.
questions.
Okay,
Both of
I thought
those.
that just the person that we're going back and forth, I just thought automatically she would be able to get it, but no, I have to actually fill out that column. Okay, if I'm going to
Yep.
do
Yep.
assignable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
Exactly.
you. It's
Now,
wonderful.
Renata, this is
Yeah.
one of those that on the practical day-to-day level can get kind of confusing. So
Mhm.
let us know if we need to dive into this more specifically, or if you start getting questions about, hey, you keep sending questions to this person, but you're not including me at all. What the heck is going on, right? The opposite problem.
Yeah.
Let us know and we can help figure out how to communicate that in a succinct way to your client to help them understand why it's set this way or why it's set the
Okay.
other way. So
Yeah.
let us know. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of what probably happened and what we can do in the future to make sure it only goes to the person that needs the question.
Okay.
But definitely let us know day to day or communicating with clients if we need to go a little bit deeper. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right. Anybody else have a last minute question that they were hoping to ask? I want to make sure that we didn't cut anybody off. No? Okay, beautiful. You guys are all just overachievers who want to listen to any and all ideas. So I love that so much. That being said, happy rest of your Wednesday. It is officially after tax season. So anybody that has like the extensions and stuff like that, sending you a big old hug. But at least the bulk of it is over. So you made it. I'm so excited. But anybody else that has any other questions, whether they are technical or in between these Q&As, or we want some more hands-on, like customize, I'm in the weeds, I'm transitioning from another system, how do I set this up, that sort of thing, please reach out. We are open for any and all questions. And as you can see, we get excited about the nerdy stuff. So let us know if there's any way that we can help here or future. And otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.